Major number 1 went to Rory McIlroy. Major 2 to Scotty Scheffler. Major 3 is on tap this week. It is the U.S. Open at Oakmont Country Club. We're going to break it down today, letting you know our best bets and our top DFS picks for Oakmont Country Club and the U.S. Open to see who will hoist the trophy this time around. Welcome on into the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, joined here as I am every Tuesday, except it's Monday, by Brandon Gdula. Check him out on X at Gdula13. He is on Blue Sky at Gdula. Brandon, back from vacation where you were gone the past 2 weeks, ducking our head-to-head, not, enjoying vacation. It was clearly just ducking our head-to-head, our win pick segment. So you've come to pay for your crimes. How you doing today?
Well, yeah, I was going to say every Tuesday, but you clarified that it's Monday, and also every Tuesday aside from the last two. But, it's nice to go and get refreshed, see the world a little bit. And Now we're back to talk U.S. Open and kind of my neck of the woods, about 90 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. Been feeling some pride about my, I guess not technically my home state, but like I've been here for 30 years, so I'd say it's my home state at this point. And a little squirrel towel at my pro shop, so I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, over his shoulder, if you're watching over on YouTube, got the Oakmont logo flashing up there, which is where they'll be this week. Second time. In the past couple of years, they hosted the U.S. Open, the last one back in 2016. I said last couple of years, then realized 2016 is a lot longer ago than I felt like it was when I started that sentence. So we're going to break down what happened in 2016 and whether that actually matters for this year's event. We'll talk about our thoughts on this year's field and get you ready talking your win bets and DFS picks for the U.S. Open. But first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to the FanDuel Research Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts, but also the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page, because 2 shows this week, as we've done for both the Masters and the PGA Championship, 2 shows this week to get you set for the third major of the year. Tomorrow, we're going to go fully in depth on the betting side of things for the U.S. Open on the Covering the Spread podcast feed, but also here on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. So if you want our non-outright picks, we're going to go through those there. We're going to go through our favorite outrights, our win bets for this week. Might add some outrights for tomorrow too, depending on how odds shake out, because we do see a lot of movement on the board each and every week, but especially during these major weeks between Monday and Tuesday. So we're going to go through win picks today, but then also DFS plays. Tomorrow is where we get the full in-depth betting breakdown of the show. If you want all that information in one place, go to the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page, hit subscribe there, and leave us a thumbs up. We appreciate those of you watching there as always. And of course, these weekly breakdowns are on the FanDuel Research Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts as well. High stakes, iconic moments. This is Major Golf, and FanDuel is your winning play, because right now all customers can grab a profit boost every round of the U.S. Major. Boost your winnings on anything from 2 and 3 balls. Was this written for me? To round leaders, to closest to pin bets, and even who you think will win it all. FanDuel is your go-to for betting on the majors. Tee off with a variety of bet types and live bets as the tournament drama unfolds. So don't wait. Download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, and swing for some green. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amounts. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit Gambling Helpline MA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Let's dig in now to this year's U.S. Open. Let you know all you need to know about Oakmont Country Club. It is 7,372 yards and a par 70 for this year's setup. And again, did last host the U.S. Open back in 2016. There are 156 golfers in the field this week, and the top 60 plus ties make the cut after the first 36 holes. Again, top 60 plus ties make the cut for this week. So a lot of guys going to miss the cut for this year's US Open. As always, top 60 plus ties after those first 36 holes. Brandon, no shot length data from 2016 at Oakmont. What should we know about this course before making bets and filling out lineups for this week?
Yeah, I mean, this has been the most frequent host of the U.S. Open, but no shot length data despite that. As Jim mentioned, last hosted 2016, which in Jim's mind was basically 2 years ago, but not really the case. And then before that, in 2007, it's slated to host a couple more times over the next few years. So that's fun. I always like, a little bit of a rota. I don't know if I'm using that word correctly. I don't even know if that is a word. Maybe I just see it abbreviated and guessing. We'll get the interns to check it out. But yeah, we'll go with that for now. But yeah, what you're going to see whenever you look around anywhere, do your own research, you're going to see that this is a tough test of golf. And frankly, it's just true. Basically every facet this week is difficult by design. Oakmont and the USGA, just basically perfect combination of being able to have an over par winner. I don't know if we'll get that. It's been a bit rainy in these parts. It was nice to, go from the nice California weather to clouds and rain here in central and western Pennsylvania. But with that said, might not play quite as tough as it could, but that seems like it's the only reprieve, honestly, for what these golfers are going to get. It's tight fairways. The GCSAA rundown has them at 28 yards on average, which is tight. The greens, yes, 8,500 square feet, about as large as you get on tour. Recent renovations kind of spanned out those greens a bit, but that does not necessarily mean that you can just be errant with your ball striking and landing on the greens. The greens are so fast, it's been harder and harder for whatever reason to get stimp readings for courses, but Oakmont's letting us know that these are going to play about a 14.5 or 15, which is blazing fast. And yes, that's going to impact your putts, but also your chips, running shots up. So, you got plenty of holes where it doesn't really feel like where the green starts and the fairway ends, but it's going to be just a relentless test of golf. It's going to play tough. There's really no way around that. And it's going to most likely play tougher than what recent US Opens have, with winning scores about 6 under, 10 under 2 years ago. But yeah, it was 400 in 2016, but there were a lot of rain delays. But in 2007, the winning score was 5 over, which is super sick. And we're probably going to be somewhere in between there, maybe because guys just hit it a lot farther. It goes a little bit, maybe if the greens, the course in general, just a little bit softer, maybe we do get something a little bit easier than we would think. But either way, it's going to be a tough all around test of golf. If you look at the length, I mean, yeah, it's long, but the way that the length adds up, there's only a handful of short holes, a couple short par 4s, a shortish par 3. Basically 4 holes that played under par in 2016. And then on the flip side, you get these monster holes, super long par 3 that some guys are not happy about. I think it's fine. If they called it a par 4, it'd be a cool, short par 4, but it doesn't matter. Everyone's got to play it 4 times if they're playing the weekend. So I don't care. I don't love it, but I don't love long par 3s when I play, but I don't mind watching some of these guys get tested every now and then.
Par is a social construct, bro.
Basically, I mean, it's not like it's a par 3 for some people and a par 4 for others. So it's just all made up anyway. But yeah, I mean, we're getting tight fairways with super penalizing rough. I'm sure there's already some social media stuff going around of
Johnny Vegas is taking photos or videos of people mowing, and it was 6 people on mowers all going past him at the same time.
I say this earnestly. I kind of love what Bryson DeChambeau is doing on his YouTube channel. Like he's making golf his own, and it is cool. I will say he did drop the golf. He played. He filmed every shot of his round at Oakmont
a couple
weeks ago.
I gotta know what the irons were.
What's that?
How were the irons?
He played pretty well.
Right, I'm gonna go grind some Bryson YouTube page and just destroy my algorithm. Excited about that.
If I recall, he ended up around even par, but I'm not positive, so don't quote me on that. But anyway, he walked up about what seemed like 30 yards in front of the tee box and dropped the ball and was like, "Look at what we're dealing with the rough." And I'm like, I don't think that's really where you're landing it. But
buddy, if you land there, you got bigger issues.
But yeah, I mean, we've all done it. He probably hasn't since
I've never, obviously.
30.
Speak for yourself, bro.
But the GCSAA does list that the rough is on average 5 inches, which in my course database is easily the longest. The second longest is actually Winged Foot from the 2020 US Open, which was 4.25 inches. And if you try to do some extrapolation, that 2020 Winged Foot, speaking of Bryson, rough played, it was the 10th most penalizing rough out of 40 courses on tour that year. If you do some math, and you just grow it up, whatever percent that is, an extra inch, basically, you're going to want to hit fairways.
Yeah.
With that said, you also want to be long off the tee. So with that said, you got to hit you got to have creativity with your irons and being able to kind of land it short and run it. You got to do everything. And that's going to be the theme for me this week. This is not the type of course where it's all you got to do is just hit the fairway. Your proximity from this range, you're going to be set. It's going to be an all-around test, over and over. There's 168 bunkers, and it took out a bunch in the renovation. And that's the most by far. It's 50 more than at Pebble, right? It's just going to be relentless. And that's why, for me, my key stats are all of them, right? Strokes gained total, strokes gained off the tee with an emphasis on driving distance, which actually trails strokes gained approach. I want to ground the green, and I want strokes gained putting. Does that sound oversimplified? Maybe. Do I think that we're going to get a surprise winner at Oakmont with some of these golfers playing really good golf? No, I don't.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize one thing you alluded to there is that rather than because you can see a lot of majors where distance matters. At Augusta, it matters. At Quail, we want a distance, and then Scotty is it's fine. So we've emphasized distance in both majors so far, but I do need guys who are not going to just totally spray it for this week. I think that actually is genuinely important. So to me, the golfers who may not be super long off the tee, but are amazing with their placement are still going to be in play for this week. So Corey Connors isn't short. He's about neutral distance wise. Very accurate guy. He can gain strokes off the tee due to that accuracy. I don't think Sepp Straka is totally out of play as a consideration for this week. Probably not going to get there in DFS because his salary is a little lofty, but I could see Sepp being in the non-outright discussion for betting tomorrow because he's a guy who gains strokes off the tee despite not being super long. I think those guys this week are very viable because placement will matter quite a bit. I'm not saying accuracy is a key stat, but I agree with you where if you're going to do anything, it's emphasis on distance, but it's not going out of your way to list that out. It's more so I want overall strokes off the tee, and I prefer they have some distance. Is that kind of an okay way to phrase that in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, just hitting fairways is not going to be enough, but also just hitting it really far is also not specifically going to be enough. They're just there's a lot to it. And we don't have shot length data from this event, but even if you go back, distance was great, but you also kind of got Jim Furyk was runner up to Dustin Johnson. You get some Kevin Na was also top 10. You're going to get guys who don't necessarily just nuke it, who can be competitive. With that said, I do think the game of golf has changed a good amount since then. Again, it's 9 years ago. It's not just overnight since they've been here. But we also have a lot of golfers who are able to hit it far and straight and have the rest of their game. So for me, coming into this one, thinking that possibly, like, you're just not going to putt your way to a US Open win at Oakmont. Not going to happen. We're probably going to see, just due to the sheer lopsidedness of, like, I don't know, just say like there's 10 favorites. And then if anyone outside of those top 10 are leading after day one and day two, it's going to be like, oh, I think through Sunday, we're going to see enough separation between the world's best golfers and everyone else, where when we're talking outrights and, in sense, we're talking upside for DFS, I think those best guys are going to get there, and you need to figure out how you're going to balance that from a betting card standpoint, from a DFS standpoint. So I would just be pretty surprised. I feel like I probably say this at every major, but I'm rarely proven wrong when it comes to majors, where it feels like one of these guys who has every asset of their game like on point, they're going to be the ones winning. They're going to be the ones in contention come Sunday.
And the guys we think of as the golfers with that best overall game have, not surprisingly, done well in recent US Opens. You're going to run through golfers who have done well in the most recent US Opens. When you're looking at the data, Brandon, which golfers have popped digging into these courses? Obviously not at Oakmont, because we're not digging back 2016 necessarily for all these guys, but like the setup is the same, where it's an all-around test of golf. Who has stood out most at these US Opens?
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the last 5 years of U.S. Opens. There's a couple names who played here, played well here in 2016, as we mentioned. That's 9 years ago. Kind of do with that what you will, in a sense. But over the last 5 U.S. Opens, who's played the best in terms of volume and success, overall total strokes gained? You might think it's Bryson because he got 2 wins in that span. It's not. It's actually Rory McIlroy. He's got back-to-back runner-up finishes at the U.S. Open. Just best overall form in this time frame. Top 10 in 6 straight U.S. Opens. Did play here 2016, missed the cut. Won the 2011 U.S. Open at Congressional. Won the Masters this year, of course. We know what Rory's form was. Now it seems like things are a little bit off the rails for Rory. He's working with driver, going to that 44-inch driver. Seems like something's off. He's basically come out and said, it's hard to grind after you win the Grand Slam. Like, that's part of it. He did not play particularly well at Canada. I don't know if you want to pause on Rory. Do you want to pause on Rory? Okay. What are your thoughts on Rory?
You don't say he didn't play well. Pretty sure he was 8 over on Friday, which partly is like, sure, he knew he wasn't going to make the cut, and he's like, yeah, this isn't going to help me, so like, let's eject. But like, I'm always willing to overlook like small samples in deference to like a more relevant sample and kind of try to buy low. And like, in theory, we're getting that with Rory this week. He's 11-1 to win at FanDuel Sportsbook, so we are getting a discount versus, I'm guessing after Augusta, he was probably like 4-1. I think you looked at this a bit back in the day. I think he was like 4-1 plus 360 or so. So we're getting a massive discount, but like, and I'm staring at that 11-1, but like, I still can't get there myself. Are you inclined to buy low, or does it just seem like these struggles are legit enough where it's like, I don't know, man.
He's given us reason to think about things. Yes. And this is tough because like, I know not everybody likes Rory, and I can see the case for not necessarily like loving Rory, whatever. I like him. I think it's a tough position to be in. He's really focused on things like the media. He's also just kind of come out and said that it's tough to be as engaged, and like, but you got to be engaged. That's what got Rory a green jacket, and part of it was like that Scotty wasn't 100%, so that's kind of a thing to think about. Scotty's now 100%. Bryson is basically just put in a lab to be competitive and try to win US Opens, if not every major, but specifically it feels like US Opens. So I can't fault anybody for looking at Rory and say, hey, look, a couple weeks ago, this number was half or whatever. I don't have it specifically, but I know it was short. And what's changed? Not a whole lot. He's going to get back, ready for a US Open. There's enough reasons to think that maybe that's not the case. And that's the subjectivity that comes in with golf. If Rory is locked in Monday through Sunday, everything's clicking, yeah, he can go out and win. The odds of that, it doesn't exactly feel like it's a lock. And so to me, I would rather go elsewhere. Yeah. Someone just behind him, John Rahm, 12-1, really feels like he would want this one. So I don't know. Maybe that's short-sighted, but I can't get there with Rory yet. Maybe I change my tune. Maybe I see something, but the reports of like his practice rounds and stuff it does not inspire the confidence right now, which is a big part of this. Not that a golfer needs to be confident, but like, is he going to play at his peak? Like, is he going to play it? Like, that's the thing. And he's kind of giving it, even if he's not literally telling us, he's giving us reasons to think that something's a little bit wrong.
Yeah. As of now, I'm also in the same spot where I can't quite get there. I'm not ruling it out.
Yeah.
But like for now, I'm okay missing out if it does happen. Who else has done well in recent US Opens based on the data?
Throw up the X. Xander, phenomenal US Open player. Has not finished worse than 14th ever at a US Open. And he's got 8 of them in his career. He's got 3 top 5 finishes at US Opens. If you look at his grid, imagine strokes gained off the tee, approach, around the green, and putting. 4 stats per event. 2, 4, 6 measured events on Data Golf. So that's 24 stats. He's been a positive in 21 of those, basically just barely losing in around the green twice and barely in putting once. You talk about being tailor-made for a US Open. It really feels like Xander is. It seems like he likes difficult golf. He's driving it really well. Or he's driving it long. He's not super accurate right now. Let me clarify that. But he's spiking in different numbers week in, week out. Would not surprise me if he is competitive. Also should not surprise anybody if you hear his name again coming from me, potentially in the outright section. But I'm not quite there yet, but I think I'm warming up more and more and more. Next up is Bryson DeChambeau, who's won 2 US Opens in this span, 2020 at Winged Foot, 2024 at Pinehurst number 2. He's made 7 straight cuts at the US Open. It was T5 at the Masters, T2 at the PGA Championship this year, and the majors so far. Did play in Oakmont in 2016, finished T15, so there's that. You seem confused. Should I stop?
Wasn't he the low am that week, or was he not an amateur at that time?
I don't recall.
I'm going to look this up.
Thank you.
This is, I'm sure, exhilarating. Oh, no, he was, I'm probably thinking of the Masters.
I don't think he was, but
I think he had gone pro.
I think so, but
yeah.
My memory's not great with stuff like this.
I mean, like same, man, same. It's not labeled on Data Golf who the amateurs were at that time, so we'll get the interns off. The interns have multiple assignments already today. This is just havoc for them.
Yeah. Scotty Scheffler's next up. No, actually, no, that's a lie. It's Hideki Matsuyama. Sorry. I scrolled. There's a page break in the notes. I missed it. Hideki, 6th, 32nd, 4th of the last 3 US Opens, 11 of 12 career made cuts, 8 top 25s in that span. Missed the cut at Oakmont in 2016. Hideki's form kind of not pure Hideki with the irons, and that's a little bit concerning. I'm not quite there, but it's hard to argue the form long term with him at US Opens. Next up is Scotty Scheffler. He did play Oakmont in 2016, missed the cut in his first ever US Open start. Since 2020, he's been 7th, 2nd, 3rd, and 41st at US Opens. Of course, coming off of the 2025 PGA Championship, mega favorite basically this week, Scotty Scheffler. I'm not saying he feels inevitable, but boy, he's in a good spot. Interestingly, a couple of names here, 2 back-to-back, who you might not think of as great U.S. Open players, but kind of indicative of, hey, do you do a lot of stuff good for a long time? You're probably going to play well at U.S. Opens long term. Colin Morikawa and Patrick Cantlay. Morikawa's got 4 straight top 15s. Did miss the cut in 2020, which is included here, but still, and you'll probably hear Winged Foot is like the best comp, that and potentially Augusta with like the undulation in the fairways, etc. Fast greens, but it is what it is. Speaking of Augusta, though, T14 at the Masters, was T50 at the PGA Championship so far this year. Cantlay's got 6 top 25 results in 9 career U.S. Opens, made all 9 cuts, missed the cut at the PGA, T36 at the Masters, for what that's worth. Then we get to Jon Rahm, kind of was going through it in majors, but I think that might be a thing of the past. Was 14th at the Masters, 8th at the PGA this year. Won the 2021 U.S. Open at Torrey Pines. Got 5 total top 25s over his last 5 starts. 4 of them T12 or better. Jon Rahm, U.S. Opens kind of go hand in hand. Love that. And then rattling off the rest of this list, Harris English, 3 top 10s over his last 5. Dustin Johnson, of course, won here in 2016, but he's missed 5 of his last 7 major cuts. Just not going to play that narrative necessarily. Russell Henley, surprisingly a good U.S. Open player, despite not being long off the tee. 4 top 25s in his last 5 starts. Made all 4 cuts at majors last year, but has missed both so far this year. And then, I don't know if he's even still our guy. It's hard not to be a Tony Finau guy, I guess. But T3 at last year's U.S. Open. He's got 4 career top 15s at U.S. Opens and 9 starts. Missed the cut at Augusta, but was T19 at the PGA Championship. But, basically, if you followed golf for the last couple years, it's like the who's who, effectively. And a couple of names where it's like, yeah, Harris English, Russell Henley, these guys are better than, like, they're not household names, but they're really good golfers.
All right, so our crack research team did get back to me.
Okay.
The low AM in the 2016 U.S. Open at Oakmont was not, in fact, Bryson DeChambeau, but it was someone on your list. Do you want to guess who it was?
No.
Oh, it's Jon Rahm.
I don't. Okay.
It's not you. Then you're not playing the game. It's not.
I don't know. I don't remember how long Jon Rahm's been on tour, when he was a amateur, whatever. Put me on the spot. Get me all nervous.
I believe he was I'm saying believe because I don't want to make definitive statements anymore. I believe he's the only amateur to make the cut that year. So shout out Jon Rahm. I need him this week for my season-long team. I think he's enticing. I think the betting odds are a little bit too short potentially, but maybe you can convince me otherwise throughout the show for today. Let's dive in now to current form, because obviously if we're trying to analyze the US Open, none of that stuff is very recent. And we tend to care more about the golfers who enter with the best form at that time. So Brandon, when you look at the more recent data, which golfers have excelled and are coming into the US Open on a high note?
Yeah, I'm going to double check this just so that I'm 100% accurate. Get my 900th tab open up. But over the last 3 months,
computer running with 900 tabs. You are streaming on like a 1-year tabs. I just
restarted. I'm good.
Oh, I keep getting a notification that I have to restart. We have apparently mandatory restarts are still a thing at the company, and I have almost reached my limit, which is good.
What's that limit? 3 years?
It is 30 days.
You haven't restarted.
Shockingly, it's been less than 30 days for me.
Since 2016 and when the US Open was last year.
I'm going to pull up the US leaderboard this week, though, and the golfers I used in DFS last year and bet will still be starred, which means I've not cleared my cookies since last year. So I've still got that going at least.
You're so quite yelling at me. What do you get out of here?
I mean, but I don't have 16,000 tabs open. I'm a respectable human.
I don't know. I see something and then I use it and then I don't close. That's just how my brain works.
Oh, it's so satisfying to close it, though. Come on.
It's just to stop start. I can't do it. But let's ignore the stop start and let's start. Okay, how's that sound? So over the last 3 months on Data Golf, True Strokes Gained Query, which adjusts for field strength, adjusts across all tours. It's going to be important for not the first name, but a couple of these other names I'm about to rattle off. Scotty Scheffler leads the way at up 3.41, which is disgusting. Over really any sample, but to do it over 3 months is great. He's got 3 wins in his last 4 starts at the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson, the PGA Championship, and the Memorial. Was T4 at the Charles Schwab while losing strokes putting. That's amazing. He's always gaining distance, but still generally gaining fairways too. And if he doesn't gain fairways, he's effectively average. It really feels like he's going to be around. It's not to guarantee that he's going to be the one to win, but Scotty evacuating does not really seem likely. However, he's got some competition, and the next name on the list is the first of 3 straight live golfers. But it's Bryson DeChambeau, who, again, has 2 U.S. Open wins already over the last 5 years. Bryson's at a 2.86 true strokes gained per round. It's still a good amount of distance between he and Scotty. But 2.86, and next up is a 2.17 for the next 2 names, which I'll save here as we get into it. But Bryson, T4 at Virginia, T2 at the PGA Championship, 1 in Korea. Those are his last 3 starts. Was 5th at the Masters. T15 again here in 2016. So he's played it a long time ago. I guess we probably buried the lead here. I don't really care about that stuff too much. It's been 9 years, and these guys can play Oakmont. They're going to get practice rounds in. There's also been a renovation, which I'm also not overly caring about. What I know is this is going to play tough, and you got to do everything. That's kind of my final thoughts on it there. But Bryson, the only guy within a shot. Let me do the math here. We need interns on this. They should be anticipating all of these. So Scotty's 1.24 shots better than everybody but Bryson over the last 3 months.
It's absurd.
That's, 1.24 over. We did this a couple weeks ago, but that's almost 5 shots. If everyone played to their baseline, he would beat everyone but Bryson by 5 shots. That's disgusting. So who are those next guys? Live Tour guys? Probably not that surprising, but Joaquin Niemann and John Rahm. Niemann won 2 of his last 3 starts. Live Virginia last week, and according to Data Golf, he lost. Again, this is stuff I gotta double check because I put the notes down. I'm like, this can't be right. Lost 1.41 strokes putting per round in one. That seems made up, but that's what's here. He gained 2.92 from approach and 1.25 off the tee, which is how you would kind of do that. But and then he's got 4 wins since early February and 4 straight made cuts at US Opens, but no finishes better than T23. And then we got John Rahm, also at a 2.17, no wins since September, but was T14 at the Masters, T8 at the PGA Championship. Great form naturally. That's why he's here on the Live Tour. And last 5 starts at the US Open. Again, talked about him being a great US Open player. 3rd, 23rd win, 12th, and 10th. Do you want to focus on those 4? I could also throw a 5th name in here who just missed the cut of a 2.0 cutoff. What do you prefer?
Well, we're going to talk about 2 of those guys later. I don't want to say which 2 because it upsets me which 2 we're talking about. But we talked about Scotty Scheffler and Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah.
And 2 other guys. Maybe we'll talk about the 2 others later.
Okay. So I'll continue. Rest of the segment. I look at golfers with a salary of $10,000 or lower on FanDuel, best current form. But I want to shout out Sepp Straka at a 1.99, 10,700 is the salary on FanDuel, but 3rd at Memorial. Missed the cut at the PGA, but won the Truist. Putting really well, but also kind of striping the irons, hitting a ton of fairways. Not a great US Open track record, but the game right now kind of implies that he could be, a factor. And so he deserves a shout out despite having a salary that's a bit above that. And if you think it's like I'm just going out of my way to shout him out, he's 5th in this sample. It's not like
above Rory, above Xander, above Morikawa, all these guys.
Yeah. So that's how good he's been over the last 3 months. And that's 9 starts for him, which is pretty sick. So best form, last 3 months under 10,000 We got Corey Connors, who's been top 20 at both majors, gaining a ton of fairways and approach strokes. Missed the cut at 5 straight U.S. Opens until last year with a T9. So you kind of think he's well suited for U.S. Opens because he drives it kind of far and straight. But it's a reminder that there's a lot more to a U.S. Open than just either hitting fairways or driving it pretty well. And we know Corey Connors he's got some struggles with the rest of his game, if we're being honest. And that's something that we got to keep in mind, not just for Connors, but for all the value golfers. There's more to it than just kind of doing one thing well. And that's continuously a factor. Keegan Bradley's next up. His salary is $9,300. He's at a 1.73. So playing some pretty good golf. 6 made cuts in 12 U.S. Open starts, but just 2 finishes better than a T27 for Keegan in his career. Both were top 7 finishes. We know he's a great ball striker, great overall tee to green game for him. Missed the cut at the Masters, but 8th at the PGA, 7th at Memorial, leading in for Keegan. Russell Henley, salary is $9,800, same as Corey Connors. T6 at Memorial, coming back from a missed cut at the PGA, also missed at the Masters, as we talked about already. But those were his only 2 missed cuts in 2025, but you also don't want them to be majors necessarily for a golfer who, is frankly at a salary point that we're probably going to get to here and there, but not be building around because Scotty and Bryson and these other guys have really high salaries and you don't want to get overexposed to value. Next up is Patrick Reed at $9,000. He's at a 1.51 and Daniel Berger at a 1.48, also at a salary of $9,000. Reed's driving right now is brutal, but was 3rd at the Masters, did miss the cut at the PGA with really bad driving accuracy. 9 of 10 made cuts at U.S. Opens with 5 top 25s. As for Berger, missed the cut in his last 2 with really bad putting, but also kind of bad ball striking at Memorial. He's really accurate. His game has been pretty good, but just goes to show, you got to cash in whenever you're playing well, and he didn't, and maybe the window's closing or shutting a little bit. So I'm not saying it's closed. I'm also not saying he's someone I would want to back to win the U.S. Open this week, but something to keep an eye on. As we talked about Harris English already, good U.S. Open player. He's also on the list at a 1.42, salary of $9,700. Good, naturally a strong 2025 so far. We talked about his U.S. Open form being good. And then the next name before it dropped down to the 1.25 range is Carlos Ortiz at a 1.41. Salary is just $8,500. Won an Asian Tour event in March. Top 10 in 3 of his last live events, but not a good U.S. Open history and not a lot of recent major starts. So kind of your classic, there's some hype, there's some reason to think, but how much Carlos Ortiz do you really want to get into? For me, minimal, potentially. Who here stands out to you?
I think that it's the 2 guys towards the top, and Corey Connors a 98 and Keegan Bradley checking into the salary of 93 for this week. Connors, I know, like you said, the U.S. Open history has not been amazing, but I do think we've seen a bit of a different version of Corey Connors the past couple of years where when he was first playing in those U.S. Opens, he was really bad putter. Struggled there a lot. I think that he's a lot more well-rounded golfer now than he was then. Maybe this is just me trying to find a way reverse engineer why I like Corey Connors this week. But I think he's a more well-rounded golfer now than he was back in that time. So I think it's encouraging that his best U.S. Open came his most recent one. And then for Keegan Bradley, like you said, was able to put up a good showing at the PGA Championship. Overall game is good. Distance is good for him. He's pretty accurate off the tee. So I think of that group, Connors and Bradley are the 2 who stand out most to me. How about for you?
Connors, probably English.
Okay. Not Patrick Reed.
I'd be okay with Henley again. It goes to show how much things drop off.
Yeah.
And
it does.
That's kind of a reminder that you're going to want to get some stud exposure and just a balance. 60 guys are making the cut. It's a full field. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be hard to scramble and get that par or make a birdie down the stretch in order to play the weekend. It's going to be really difficult to get a 6 out of 6 lineup. as always, I mean, it's always relatively tricky, for the most part at a full field event. This week, even more so. And with that, like, I don't think the right path to your baseline strategy in DFS, I don't think the right way to go about it is like building balanced lineups and getting 3 of these names and like you're going to get the guys who are going to buoy your lineups and hope that some of the value swipes you take pan off. I could be proven wrong, but that's how I'm handling it this week.
I agree with you very much there. We're getting to Scotty at 13-8 this week. And if it's not Scotty, it's probably Bryson. So I'm on board with that approach as well. You mentioned that there has been a lot of damp weather in Pennsylvania recently. That will be the case again this week, but more so later in the week. Thursday will be pretty dry with minimal wind. So pretty normal day on Thursday. On Friday, the rain odds increase as the day goes along, but non-negligible amount even in the morning. On Saturday, there's rain and chances of thunderstorms, potentially delays in the action there. Same thing for Sunday, more scattered thunderstorms there and rainy as well. So I'm guessing it'll be pretty moist this week out at Oakmont, which may allow things to play a bit easier than they have at times in the past. Maybe skewing more towards that Dustin Johnson year where it was 4 under for the winning score versus the 5 over. I think that we will see some of that and we will see some delays, but I don't see any particular wave benefiting from the way the weather breaks down, at least as of now. So should be able to play things relatively straight up there. Let's dive in now to the win pick segment of the show for today. Again, we are going to do the full betting preview tomorrow on the show, but do you want to go through our favorite outrights for today? Give you a little taste of what's to come for this week from a betting perspective for the U.S. Open. Brandon, when you look at the outright odds of FanDuel Sportsbook, where are you seeing value as things stand for the U.S. Open?
I don't want to get overexposed to long shots for the U.S. Open, especially one at Oakmont, where I think the best names are going to be at the top of the leaderboard come Sunday. It's going to be a mix of, look, some of these guys that Jim has pulled up here, some of these guys are missing the cut. Just the way, like, it's Oakmont, it's the U.S. Open, 60 guys make the cut. It's going to be volatile. With that said, the one standing tall, I think, is going to come from somewhere on this list or not too far beyond it. And that's why I'm okay with a pretty abbreviated outright card, and I can get exposure to other things in other ways. Who's going to go out and beat Scotty, who's playing great golf right now? Who can go knock Bryson off the pedestal? One of the names that fits that for me, both subjectively and objectively, is Jon Rahm at 12-1. I like Jon Rahm. His major struggles kind of seem like they're a thing of the past in a way, heading to the U.S. Open, where he's just played stellar golf at the U.S. Open, especially over the last 5 years. Since 2019, or his last 5 starts, I should probably clarify. Since 2019, he's gained strokes in 19 of 20 possible categories at U.S. Open. So you take your 4 off the tee approach around the green putting, grid it out. He's gained in basically every one of them, and he lost marginally at winged foot around the green in 2020. Like, he always picks up distance. He's one of the more accurate long drivers that we have. Almost said on tour, but in major fields. And again, going back to, like, I was kind of out on Rahm at majors after a while because it just didn't feel like it was there. But T14 at Augusta, T8 at the PGA Championship could have been better, but played aggressively down the stretch. I don't think he cares if he finishes T8 or T2. He wants to win a major. Probably freed up due to contractual situations there from like that perspective of it. But the ball striking right now for Rahm, super pure. And honestly, one of the things that separated Rahm in the past from the other best players, and I don't think he ever fully got credit for it because it doesn't look like he'd be the best short game guy with like the best hands, but he's one of the best short game players in the world with some of the best hands, some of the best putting, and that's going to matter this week. Like, you're going to have to chip it and play the run out on these greens that are running a 15 on the stimp. It's going to take some creativity. It's going to take some like touch. And I think he has that. I think he's got the creativity to make things work. If you want to go like the Augusta comp, he's obviously, played well at Augusta in his career. So, I think Jon Rahm, to me, is the first name as I go down from the start at these current odds. I'll clarify, because I think Scotty and Bryson are going to be just in the mix. I don't think there's a way around it. But with Bryson now at 7-1, Scotty at plus 280, I can't get there. Rory, I love him. I'm not there, but I get to Rahm. My model likes it enough. I like it enough. I like Jon Rahm to win the US Open at 12-1.
How tough was it for you to decide between Rahm and Rory in that range? Was it definitive for you? Like, I'm not even considering Rory at 11-1. I have to go Rahm at 12. Or was it a situation where, like, okay, I think this is the right range to be in? I'm having a hard time deciding. You settled on Rahm. How was that decision process for you?
I think that for me, Rory is a victim of the way that golf works, where you play really good golf for a long time and sometimes you get a win. And sometimes if you play good enough golf for long enough, you get 2 wins or 3 wins. And then effectively, unless you're Tiger Woods or currently Scotty Scheffler, that stuff just kind of goes away.
Yeah.
And you get the mental aspect of it. Not just like, oh, he doesn't care, but there's a real, like, he won. He got a burden off of his back that plagued him for like a decade, right? And then he had won and won and won, and then it just felt like, things change, right? And that is also bared out in the data whenever you see it. Like, if you play well enough for long enough, look at Xander Schauffele. Like, didn't win for a long time, and then the wins just started to come. Got injured. Maybe we'll talk about Xander here in one more second, but like, to me, yes, if I didn't know anything Rory said and I was just looking at the year, I would say, look, what are we doing here? Rory's the play.
Yeah.
Rory's, despite his like squabbles, what's the word I'm looking for? His like issues with the media right now, he's still very open and forthright.
He is one of the more honest people on the tour, it seems.
I don't always agree with what he's saying, but I understand.
At least he's saying it.
So to me, like, we're getting Jon Rahm. I don't want to say buying low, but like Jon Rahm, you're not paying for like the recent wins, right? He hasn't won since September.
Yeah.
With Rory, he's sliding down, and I wouldn't fault anybody for liking Rory. I get it. If he goes back to how he was playing, 11-1 is going to look like, what were we thinking? This is one of those situations where he's not hiding what's sort of happening. I can't really bet someone who's like, yeah, I can't figure out my driver right now. Like it just doesn't give me what I need.
Yeah. I hear that. I understand. We did get a Rosa bark in there at one point. I'm not sure she was barking at Rahm or Rory. I'll report to her and get back to you. But she didn't leave the couch. It was a kind of a lazy bark where she was looking out the window and barked and then laid back down. So maybe a half bark for Rahm or a half one for Rory, but just for the data nerds out there keeping track at home, we did get a Rosa bark out there for one of them. Now you mentioned this.
Yeah.
I was going to ask before I knew you were going to have Xander. I was going to ask you, was it tough to decide between, Rahm at 12 when you could have Xander at 22? But you're taking in the spirit of Jon Rahm, porque no los dos, and going with Xander at 22 as well. So what puts you on Xander for this week?
Yeah. Rahm 12, Xander 22, outright's basically done with. I would rather come Thursday know I got 2 names that I won't regret, as opposed to splitting on, like, no offense to these names, but like Shane Lowry and Sepp Straka. And I want to make sure, like, I think this is you want to talk about the dogs barking? I think the dogs are going to be barking at Oakmont. And I think that, where's my Braun breaker somewhere? Anyway, I think that this is going to be a test that is tough enough where the best separate. And I think that Xander right now is kind of going through a quiet, like, renaissance where he is not as flawlessly gaining everywhere always, but he's doing a bit of everything, and it just hasn't all lined up at once. It's not surprising whenever Xander is top 3 in approach for a week. It's not surprising when he's leading in distance for a week. It's not surprising, that he is one of the better putters in the field. When you have all of that tied in with his track record at US Opens, never finishing worse than T14 over 8 starts, gaining basically everywhere. And if you I think so I said up front, I'm not looking at any sort of, derivative stats or proximity based anything. You could probably make a case for something like, ball speed or club head speed being important, because when you do miss the rough and you're in the deep stuff, you got to get it out as far as you can. Xander's 12th on tour in ball speed this year. That's kind of inherently what makes Bryson such a weapon at US Opens, is just this club head speed he can generate. Xander's one of the best at that too. And I think, frankly, the game itself is just in a better spot than we think, because the results have been whatever. And those whatever results are just a lot of top 12s, top 25s. So I'm fine this week getting in on 2 of the favorites and just being done with it, because especially at all majors, but really this major in particular, I think the Open's a whole different conversation, because that one's super volatile and different. I'm just going to be surprised if a long shot wins it. And I could be talked into that. But for right now, I like Rahm and I like Xander to start things off.
Xander at 22-1 right now, Rahm at 12-1 to win this week. And I think that Xander's very interesting, given that he's had spike weeks in important categories, but hasn't put it all together in a single event just yet. He's shown he can putt well. He's shown he can, match it for distance. He's shown the irons can be there. Hasn't done it all in the same time. He could. And I think that's why he's very enticing at 22-1 to win this week. You mentioned the dogs are barking. Joaquin Niemann's history in majors is more like a little puppy whimper so far. And so it might feel very stupid, maybe it is, to like Joaquin Niemann for this week. But hear me out. I think he's kind of interesting at 30-1, and one of the outrights I am interested in for this week, despite my better judgment. Now, Niemann's overall major history is bad. He did, though, get his first career top 10 at a major at the PGA Championship, thanks to a scorching hot weekend at Quail Hollow. Gained 2.03 strokes and approach there, 0.96 putting. And there's been some discussion about the strokes gain data from Live Tour events. That wasn't a Live event. That was another major, and Niemann gained 2.03 at approach, 0.96 putting in that one. Then goes out and wins Live in Virginia, like you said, despite losing 1.41 strokes per round putting. Was that real? I don't know. Who can say? But the ball striking is good for Niemann. Now, we've done this a bunch of times. We've seen Niemann's Live Tour events and be like, oh my gosh, next time this guy's at an event that I care about, I got to bet this guy, got to get at him. And it's gone terribly so far. It has at least been better though. Look at the past 5 majors: 22nd at the Masters last year, 29th this year, 8th at the PGA Championship this year. He's generally had really, really good irons there. He's drove the ball pretty well too. Just has lost it with the short game. That could happen again, because this guy's track record says he's probably going to crumble in a major. But we're also getting him at 30-1 for a guy whose ball striking has been literally insane for a pretty long time now. So yeah, maybe I look really stupid by noon on Thursday, depending on his tee time. Wow, he's out of it. Shot 77 in round 1, and he's toast. That's very possible. It's happened to me before with Niemann, but I'm willing to look stupid again, because there's enough there to say I can take a shot in him when the number is still long enough at 30-1. So despite how it's gone for me so far, I'm going to go to Joaquin Niemann, 30-1 to win the US Open this week. What could possibly go wrong? You have been more level-headed with Niemann, so what's your read on him right now?
I'm going to flip this one around.
Oh, no. That can't be good for me.
30-1 is different than 22-1.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
You could get Xander, who's got 2 major wins, who is basically the best US Open player other than Rory in the last 5 years, who's probably a little bit undervalued because he hasn't put it all together, versus Niemann, who's never really looked impressive in any major ever.
Except for 2 rounds at Quail Hollow.
Look, the case for Niemann is so data-based. I get it. But that's where I struggle. And I understand 30-1, 22-1, different numbers. I get it. To me, who's above him? Is it Ludwig and Morikawa at 25?
Yeah, Ludwig keeps getting bet down too. I think he was 30 this morning, then he was 27, and now he's 25.
So you gave this to me with Rahm and Rory. Is Niemann a no-brainer at 30 compared to Morikawa and Ludwig at 25?
Yes, for me at least.
Okay. I think Morikawa is a better U.S. Open player than you probably realize, but also Ludwig, I think he might just be a person who the data just can't figure out ever and then he'll put it.
He just could be broke. Yeah, which is fine. That's fine. He is what he is.
I would rather go Ludwig than Niemann, I think, which is wild.
You want to make that interesting or no?
Yeah, we can make it interesting.
We'll head to head. Let's do finishing positions since we're talking versus FanDuel points. Let's do finishing position. You got Ludwig Oberg. I've got Joaquin Niemann this week. Why not add more financial exposure? It's not really financial because these are more for fun, but the win bet is.
Yeah.
It's gone so great so far. So why not run it back one more time?
Look, he is. I mean, we talked about him, how good he is, and he's got the same form over the last 3 months as Jon Rahm, who I love, and the number's so different. But I think not that there's really film bros with golf, but I think it's the people who
I think the ball knowers will be enraged by someone talking of Joaquin Niemann on a podcast, and frankly, I don't blame them. That's the thing is I can't even push back. So I'm yeah, I get it. It's stupid, but whatever. It's my mind.
But it's not in a vacuum. Niemann makes sense. Yeah. If you say, okay, can he answer the questions Oakmont's going to throw at him? I don't know. Who can? I'm the one saying 6 guys can. So I could be way off base here too. That's where I am with it. Okay. I know you got someone else too, and I'm going to throw another one at you. So hit me with your next name here.
Oh, dude, don't give me. Okay, I already know what you're going to ask me, and I don't want that question because the guy I'm going to talk about is Justin Thomas, who is 40-1. There's another golfer 40-1. I'm not going to hear this question, so I'm just going to scroll past him. I'm not letting you ask about Tommy Fleetwood winning not only an event on U.S. soil, but the freaking U.S. Open. No, we're not having that conversation. But JT 40-1 has lost strokes and approach in the past 2 events. Seems good, but he did still gain 0.7 off the tee at the Memorial. So when I see a guy suddenly lose strokes and approach in 2 consecutive events, the worry is injury. And that's why I was I don't know about JT. But then you look at him gaining strokes off the tee at the Memorial. He did do that. He still gained there. So I'm less concerned about an injury. Before those 2 events, second at the Truist, won the RBC Heritage. He ranks 4th in the field in true strokes gained the past 6 months behind Scotty, Rory, and Bryson. 6-month sample is a pretty big sample. Those are the only guys above him, and they're all 11-1 or shorter because that's where Rory is. And JT is 40-1. If you look at the numbers I look strokes gained at stabilization, which is the past 30 rounds off the tee, 40 rounds approach, 50 for short game. He ranks 7th there, so still pretty good for a guy at 40-1. You said there are 6 guys who can win. Maybe there are 7 and JT. Or it could
that's
be
not
4.
an official count. That's not an official count. I was just throwing it out there, but.
Mm-hmm. But he's been bad in the majors this year. He's always bad at Augusta. I'm willing to write that one off. It was concerning that he wasn't good at Quail Hollow, given he's won there before, but he won a signature event after that. So I feel like JT can still get it done at 40. I don't feel that way for Tommy. So if you're going to ask me that, I'm going to very quickly say, no, it was not a consideration, but I do think JT has the stones to get it done at 40-1. And I feel better about intestinal fortitude with him than I do with Niemann.
Okay. So we've actually done a Fleetwood versus JT finishing position bet at Valspar, which you won. Would you do it again this week?
Of course I would.
Okay. If there's a week where even...
Is Pennsylvania in the United States?
There's a...
Can you answer that for me?
Yes, it is. If there's a week... Hey, how many majors did Xander win before last year?
But Xander had won a PGA Tour event.
Sure. But Fleetwood's won, 7 times on the DP World Tour? I mean,
cool, man.
3 Ryder
Cups. Matt Fitzpatrick, not picking him this week.
We won the 2017 race to Dubai, man. Come on.
Oh, man.
Get out of here with that. If there's a week where like even par wins, that's when I want Tommy Fleetwood to be a consideration.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I don't care. I'm good. I looked at his like profile on Data Golf. I did look into his recent things, remembered that I'm betting someone to win, and immediately close the tab, because that's what you do. You close tabs and you're done with them. Just letting you know. Okay, so I've got Justin Thomas 40-1, Joaquin Niemann 30-1. Feels great. You've got John Rahm at 12-1, Xander Schauffele 22. Again, full betting insights tomorrow on covering the spread, and also on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. And if things do change, our picks could change too. Just want to make that disclaimer as well.
So you're going with long, like for the U.S. Open purposes, long shots, like anything 30-1 or longer. Are you you don't like the numbers for the top guys, or do you think someone like, clearly you think someone outside the top? Let me just count this, or scroll up. Let me count it.
I don't like the number on Scheffler at 280. I like Bryson if he's 9, but he's 7.
So I would say there's like a top. I'd say there's a big 5 with Scotty, Bryson, Rory, Rahm, and Xander.
Okay.
I could even hear a case for 4.
Okay.
I understand not liking the numbers.
Well, actually, I think you can bet like groups at FanDuel.
I think you can bet without the 4 of them.
So basically, you can bet like, will any of Scotty, Bryson, Rory, or Rahm win? That's minus 134. So you could bet that.
Well, so what I'm saying though is, clearly to like Neiman and to like JT, you think someone else can win, but like, are you just out on the favorites because you don't like the numbers?
Yeah.
You're okay.
It's nothing like, I like all their fits. I like their form. Just their numbers are too short and I can't bet on them.
Because like, I think come the Open Championship, it's going to be like, yeah, stuff happens. This week, I'm just having a hard time thinking about certain names going out and beating these guys. But 2 or 3 of these guys could just miss the cut, and then it's a whole different ball game. So I just wanted to ask, because I'm really top heavy this week, and I can't get around that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And like, I think that Scotty's probably going to win. But like, plus 280 is so short for a very tough test of golf with an amazing field behind him. So like, he deserves to be where he's at, but I can't bet it if he deserves to be there. And it's like, he's accurately priced at plus 280. So it's just, I think that if I'm looking for value, which is what I want always, I got to dip down the leaderboard, and it winds up being Neiman and JT as my 2 favorites there. So yeah, it's just because the number's too short.
Yeah, it's tough because like Bryson 9 or 10 would be my favorite route, but
oh my gosh, I would adore Bryson if he were 9, 10, 950, 10. I'd be all over that. And if he does, he's not going to lengthen by tomorrow's show. But like, hypothetically, he did, I'd be all over that for sure. So
yeah, I just wanted to clarify because
the DFS discussion is very different.
Yes,
where I'm open to some second tier guys there. I think for DFS this week at the US Open, I need to funnel studs in, and that means being top heavy. So Scotty Scheffler's salary is 12.8. Bryson DeChambeau is 12.5. They are pretty well clear of the pack.
12.8
or 13.8. 13.8. He could be 15.8. I don't care. I didn't see the number because I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm going to use him. So to me, if you told me right now that I will not have a single lineup that does not have Scotty or Bryson in it, I'd say that makes sense. I would not be surprised. I'm not sure that I'll wind up that way when push comes to shove and I'm filling out lineups on, Wednesday afternoon, definitely not taking up company work time. But like, hypothetically at that time, if it's just Scotty and Bryson in every single lineup, I'm not that surprised. How about for you?
Yeah, these guys are phenomenal DFS plays. From a process standpoint, the win equity's there based on my model, but more importantly for most people making these decisions, like the betting odds at FanDuel Sportsbook, that's what is supporting these two having. I mean, and like, we're kind of glossing over the fact that Scotty's plus 280 to win a US Open. Like that's not That's not normal behavior.
No.
So to build a lineup without Scotty, you're effectively saying he gets a couple bad breaks. Maybe like there's a slim chance that he misses the cut because it's a tight cut. You say like, oh, he takes a swipe at a ball, like it happened to Rory a couple years ago. Like, oh, he's in the tall stuff. He's a quad, right? And there's not enough chances for him to make up that ground. That's all I got for like not being there with Scotty. So from a process standpoint, Scotty's the guy for sure. And then followed by Bryson. But if you just plug in Scotty, you got 9240 left per golfer. And if you jump down to Bryson, you got 9500, which is like, yeah, it's different, but it's not different enough. So if you're starting with just one of them, it's still, to me, clearly Scotty, even with the salary discrepancy, just due to everything. And, these guys are going to get tested, and Scotty, I know, can get a little bit complaining when things don't go his way, but it really never feels like it builds to the point where he's frustrated. He kind of complains, and then he's hitting a 300 yards down the middle of the fairway the next. So like that's where I am with Scotty. He's the guy, and Rory is a great pivot for those playing the game theory angle. If Rory goes out and wins, you're probably going to get so much leverage on everyone else if that happens. But I like Rahm and I like Schauffele. So I like the top five just to different degrees. So I think it's clearly Scotty and Bryson. Are you going to try to jam both together? What does that give us?
If you do both together, you have 84.25 left. Now, one thing that we can just say now is that there is a min salary golfer who we both like, and Andrew Novak at $7,000. You put Novak in there, $1,800 left for 3 golfers. I can do that. So I can make that work. But also, I might, like, if you give me, we talk a lot about, like, okay, you give me one single entry lineup for the US Open, that might be my build, is having Scotty plus Bryson in there, because roster rates on both those guys will be very high. Roster rates in them together, you're cutting you're cutting into that significantly. So I think that's fine. And I'm pretty inclined to look that way this week. Now, both for at the Masters, we said, hey, Rory's a good pivot because people gravitate towards Scotty given the course history. At Quail Hollow, we said Scotty's a good pivot because people gravitate towards Rory because of the course history there. Yeah, I can't make that same case this week. Like we've been about that approach. We've liked that strategy in DFS this year. I think for me, I'm going to suck it up and try to find ways to be different elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm not so out on Rory that I wouldn't consider it, but it's not a priority. Again, I think Rahm, you're going to get enough leverage. I don't think the sentiment publicly on Rory is going to be that brutal.
No.
And Xander as well. But I'm probably with you where I'm more inclined to try to get Scotty and Bryson together, because there's a reality. There's a couple realities where like one of these two guys wins at like -4 and the other one's like -2 and everyone else is like +2, and it's like,
the number of birdies they're getting you, because birdies matter a lot for FanDuel scoring. Like that stuff matters.
And
I would also say that does not mean I will not use Rory. I think I would use him in tandem with Scotty or Bryson. If I can make a Scotty plus Bryson work, I can make a Scotty plus Rory or Bryson plus Rory work, and I'm inclined to do that. Like I want a lineup with Rory in it, but it will not be at the expense of Scotty or Bryson for me this week.
Yeah, I could see just duplicating a lineup that you have Scotty and Bryson together, play Rory instead, get that leverage, something like that. But yeah, and I know I like Rahm and Xander a little bit more than you do. So, but I feel similarly with them as I do with Rory.
And is it pretty firm that Rahm and Xander are above this other group in the second tier for you? Like you're saying that it's the big five and then drop off after there?
I believe so, yes. Colin Morikawa is an underrated US Open player. Would be typical for me, although that's actually not fair because I've been there for his major wins, thankfully. But it'd be typical where I'm finally out on Morikawa and he goes out and wins. But it's not the week for me to want to get to Morikawa specifically. Ludwig, love him. Not going to be surprised if he's in the final group out of nowhere when his game's not perfect. But if he's just hitting it far, hitting the center of the green, making some putts, saving par from 14 feet, that's kind of his game. but I'm not there as a priority. Tommy Fleetwood, I still think deserves a little bit more love than you're showing him, just from a sense of like, he's probably not going to play his way out of it. He's one of the best tee to green players in the world. And this is the kind of question we're asking of him. Switched his putter over, been putting well. I think that there's merit to that, but 11-2 from a DFS standpoint, probably not there. Going to be maybe more of a top 5, top 10 angle for me this week with Tommy. And then you get to Shane Lowry and JT rounding out the 11,000 tier. Lowry's interesting as always as a tee to green player. JT, I get it. I think this just isn't the JT week for me personally. Does anybody in this next group of 5 names, Morikawa to JT, anybody you think you're going to get out of your way to play in DFS?
Not out of my way. No, I don't think any of them's priority. I think that the loves for me, like the priorities, are the guys above them. So I think I'm in the same boat with you, where it's really the big 5. And I think that for Xander, I'd rather bet him than play him in DFS. So even like Xander's not really super well suited to this format for me. I think Rahm I'd rather play in DFS than bet personally.
I think they're both like top 15 anchor type, like DFS options. Like top 15 in terms of like, if they're both T12, it's like, oh yeah, that was a great combo in DFS kind of thing.
I will say that I do like Rahm more in DFS than I do for betting. So Rahm at 11-9 on FanDuel is pretty interesting. And I think honestly what this is leading to is me thinking I'll probably have 2 of these top 4 guys in a good number of my lineups. And the top 4 being Scheffler, DeChambeau, McIlroy, and Rahm.
So you prefer Rahm in DFS? Do you prefer Rory, and would you rather bet Rory at 11 than play him in DFS? Because I think I would.
He's kind of more of an in-between for me. Like I could see both sides for him. So versus Rahm, I know I'm not going to bet him at 12. I could see myself betting Rory at 11.
I feel like with Rory, you could bet him at 11, and if he's not there, it don't matter.
Yeah, true.
If he is there, like
a full lineup,
you're getting If Rory was locked in, he'd probably be.
Oh, I know how much of an anchor he can pull in a lineup. When I had Ryan Fox in the lineup last week, and it also had Rory, so it didn't matter that I had the winner in there. Yeah, it was good stuff. Thanks, Rory. Rahm, I think for me is pretty firmly DFS for this week. Although I get the case you're betting.
And then if we bump down to the 10K range, upper 10Ks, this is probably where I'd rather get back in than the tier above.
Because you want to get to Joaquin Niemann.
With your boy Joaquin Niemann, with quietly good U.S. Open player Patrick Cantlay, Sepp Straka, one of the best players in the world right now, like no joke, just by the data. Victor Hovland, I can't get there, but like Jordan Spieth's playing some good golf. Kind of sick to have Spieth back.
Ben Griffin showing yourself Ben Griffin at 10-4 like a month ago. Even
I was literally doing the top form over the last 3 months, guys below 10,000. I was like, where's Ben Griffin? Is he spreadsheet ruining me with Ben? Like,
right?
No, he was just above 10,000, so he wasn't in the filter.
Good for him, man. I love that for him. I don't see anything super like that really grabs my attention here outside of like I do like Niemann. Like I think if I want to go a bit more balanced, like not go with Novak, or there's some other guys in the 7K range who are interesting. If I want to go more balanced, I would put Niemann in there. But I feel like for me, again, I'd rather go with 2 of the top 4 guys than over Niemann as my second golfer this week.
That's fine. I'm not going to push back. Yeah. And from here, I don't know. I don't think Tony Finau, good U.S. Open player, but I'm not there. Teo Hatton, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays well, but this is probably going to be such a tough test that I don't know if he's going to be. I think this might get the better of him potentially, so I just don't want to get to that. Brooks, I'm over. Cam Smith, Brooks, I'm over. I'd probably next go to Henley, and I don't even like Henley and Corey Connors probably.
Yeah.
Do you have
I like Connors at 98. Yeah, I like Connors at 98. Henley, honestly, I should like more than I did at like first glance. I think it's just be the recent stuff in majors. I'm just missing the cut of the PGA and the Masters is playing a bit heavy on my brain there, but also like he hasn't been as good recently as he was in the late spring or early spring. I don't know when seasons begin, but like hasn't had the same form. So I like Connors quite a bit more than Henley this week, but I don't hate Henley either.
Yeah. This is like a pretty us tier of names. Especially if you scroll down one more and get Harris English in there, I like Harris English at 97. The problem though is like if you go with Scotty and Bryson and you plug in even a Harris English, you're at 8,000 per golfer. Like, so
it's tough.
Yeah. So you're gonna have to answer the question of like if you want to get two of the top four. You said top four. I'd say top five. If you want to go even Xander and Scotty, you're at 86. You're just not in this range much. It's too difficult. So I think you're gonna have to ask the questions.
I think that the good thing though is there aren't a lot of guys here I feel FOMO with in this upper 9 range. Like Connors, yeah, to an extent, but it's not like FOMO. It's like he's a good play. Which is why I'm okay, honestly, like glossing over a lot of this. And like, I think it picks back up in the lower 9 range. Specifically, I like Keegan at 93. The putting is not great right now, but like, whatever. It's how it goes. Really good ball striker. 8th PGA championship, despite being neutral on the greens there. Distance for him really solid. So I like Keegan. I know we've poo-pooed Sam Burns a lot, understandably. And it's not like me, like, this is recency bias. Okay, I won't try to hide it. It's recency biasy, but the irons have actually been really good for Burns the past 2 weeks. He's had good iron play in the past at times. And when you give good iron play to a guy with his distance and his putter, that's upside. So I like Keegan 93. I like Burns 92. And I think this range is a lot better than the upper 9 range. What say you about the guys in the mid to lower 9,000 range?
I just have to throw out the name above Justin Rose here with Minwoo Lee is like, if you're going ball speed out of the rough angle at 94, I'm not going to probably play Minwoo Lee, but he's there. Keegan's probably the name I'd feel best with. Sam Burns, like you made a good point with in the past, he's been a good iron player, but that was such a kind of bleak playoff just for a lot of different reasons. But you're still getting some potentially buying low on Burns. So I'm still good with that angle of it. And frankly, he's going to be one of the first names I'd click. That chest hair. He's
got that dog in him. You can tell. Again, you couldn't tell in the playoff on Sunday, but the chest hair swag is there at least. I think that counts for something.
Yeah, I think he's got some stuff to play for as well. Ryder Cup positioning, etc. But now you get like our staple and like Daniel Berger kind of playing poor golf lately. That's tough.
Yeah.
Mav McNeely.
I still like him enough. But like, I need to be conscious of putting a cap on my exposure to Berger because of the recent play. It's been bad enough where it's like, okay, I'm going to use him still because like he could have been off, but I need to put a lid on that exposure, and it needs to be like a 30% lid. Like it's not. I want to go way above 30%, not on Berger for this week.
Yeah, Robert McIntyre, I'd be okay with. He's probably going to pick up a lot of fairways, make some putts. Prefer him to Patrick Reed, honestly. Cameron Young's had some good finishes at 89. Doing a lot with the putter and driver, not much in between. I think this might ask a little too much of his current game, but wouldn't surprise me if he ends up becoming a pretty good U.S. Open player. I just am not totally there, honestly. Aaron Rai, if you go the angle of I just want fairways, like he's still going to make some putts, but if this is like a true tee to green competition, Rai finishing top 20, like a T18 wouldn't surprise me too much. I don't know if he's going to really have enough to contend for 4 straight days, but you just get into this tier of like, you mentioned like not having a lot of FOMO with anyone. It goes back to like, who's going to win this week? And I don't know if it's coming from down here, let alone or a couple tiers above, let alone from down here. So you're just looking for like something from these guys. So with that being what your expectation is, like Rise fine.
Sure.
I don't think it's a Taylor Pendrith week, frankly.
I might. I might. I took advantage while you were out last week to like squeeze in one last Pendrith recommendation. I was like, well, Dad's not home, so I can talk Pendrith on the show. But like, the short game's getting a little bit better. He's actually gained around the green 4 consecutive
How's it getting?
events.
How long has it been good? Long enough?
4 straight events. When I pull strokes gain to stabilization, I pull the last 16 rounds. It's not the past. It's not the past 50.
What is your stabilization rate for around the green?
50. Okay. I mean, it's based on your research, so you know that.
Yeah. I'm asking you questions here.
15 is what I said, not 50. So he's good. He's great with the wedges.
108. He's out to the top 100 in both short game stats over the last 50 rounds. I think this is just going to ask too much.
For now. Yeah. $8,800. Got the distance. Irons are pretty good for Pendrith too. So like, do I want to use him? No. I know his flaws. I know why he's down here. But like, whatever. It's one of those things. Kind of just confirming what you were saying before about like the not having FOMO down here. That's why I'm on Pendrith this week. The one guy I'm like pretty cool with is JJ Spawn 86. I know he's not going to like inspire tons of fear. Like the FOMO aspect isn't there, but he's just a good golfer at 86. One of the better iron players in the field. He gains off the tee, but a little bit of distance, a little bit of accuracy. He just needs a short game to be there, and I don't know if it will be, but like I think JJ Spawn's a good golfer, so I like him at 86. Are you okay with Spawn this week?
Yeah, Spawn's one of the names that I kind of feel like I'm going to be clicking a good amount, especially compared to it's like kind of I don't want to say it's unfair because it's I think deserved with Sung J M, where I can't be bought in fully with him ever anymore.
Yeah.
You got Carlos Ortiz in good recent form, but then you have JJ Spawn, who's like kind of, a pretty well-tested golfer, and I kind of like that. I don't think I'm gonna get to like Denny McCarthy either. Yeah. Although I wouldn't be surprised if he just plays some like 2 over par every day, grinds it out, some real greasy par saves and stuff. Just who down here do you think is gonna make the even? Who do you feel confident is going to make the cut at such a tough venue with a short cut too?
I do think Rye's a fine call from that perspective.
Yeah.
Which is like probably the right perspective, honestly. So I get that. Rye with the salary again, $8,900 for this week. There are 2 guys in the 7K range I like. One of them is Novak. Can you think of anyone else in 7K range I might like this week without looking at our note sheet?
Oh, well, my Excel's crashing at a great time, so let me pull up an alternative source. My spreadsheet's just too large. It's not the tabs; it's just the spreadsheet's too large at this point. Over years and years of, let me.
I went down to the 7K range to try to give you a hint, but I realized there are several people on this screen who you might think that I like this week.
Oh, for you, Steven Yeager, maybe. Yeah. Oh, it can't be Lucas Glover. Don't give me.
No, it's not. Believe me. Don't worry about that. You're good.
Steven Yeager's kind of interesting. Is it him?
No.
Is it Thomas Dietrich?
No. You guessed 3 out of 5.
You like all these names.
I know, but you've gotten it wrong 3 times.
You're like, oh, maybe you could guess. Here are 5 names I talk about constantly.
Yeah, and you guessed wrong.
Bud Cauley?
Of course it's Bud Cauley. Come on.
Gosh.
He did make the cut of the PGA Championship. Did he play well? No. Did he make the cut? Yes. Second at the Charles Schwab. 39th at the Memorial due to a bad short game there. His salary 79. I'm buying into what he's been doing recently. And his salary 79. I'm not going to do a whole lot better than Bud Cauley. Like if you look at the past 6 months, 1.05 true strokes gained. That's really good for a guy down here. And then 1.34 strokes gained to stabilization too, which is phenomenal for a guy in the 7K range. So it's just me following the data with Bud Cauley. That's leading me there.
Who are the top guys by stabilization? Like
in the field?
85.
Wait, above 85?
No, like below 85 or so.
Well, JJ Spawn is right above that number. He's 86. He'd be number 1. Bud Cauley, number 2.
Okay.
And then Denny McCarthy.
My guy.
Ryan Gerard, Andrew Novak are the top ones.
Yeah, Gerard's kind of interesting. What's he like 80? something, 81.
Yeah.
Don't mind that.
Rasmus Nørgaard Peterson is next up. Michael Kim is up there, 83.
I wonder where Ryan Fox will slate in.
Oh, I've not added to my sheet yet. But yeah, I'm curious about that too. But yeah, I think that Bud works. Just gonna ride the form, basically.
Yeah, and we'll keep an eye out for Ryan Fox's salary.
Mm-hmm. All right. Who are your loves for DFS this week?
This is tough, man. After doing this whole exercise, I'm gonna be like, I gotta be somewhat honest here, and I can't just say 3 of the top 5 because like it's hard to build a lineup if that's the case. So I'm gonna say Scotty for sure.
Okay,
is a love.
Okay,
I'm going to say I might go down to like Corey Connors next.
Sure.
Like it's implied that it's Bryson and Xander and Rahm.
Yeah.
But it's difficult.
Those are all more likes than loves for you.
It's just difficult if you love Scotty and you want to play a lot of Scotty to build around that and say, like, you know what, just play 4 value names along with it. So that's kind of tricky. I think you might have talked me into Sam Burns at 92.
Okay. Was it the chest hair or the irons?
A little both, K-Dog.
Okay, good.
I'd probably say Spawn at 86 and then Novak at 7,000.
Yeah, we're pretty similar because mine are Scotty. I'm putting Bryson in there too. I'm going to go Scotty and Bryson. I think he's a love because I like him enough above Rory and Rahm where I think I can put him there. I like Novak at 7,000 as a love. And then Spawn 86 would be a love for me. With some strong consideration going to potentially even adding in Bud Cauley at 79, just because, again, I know I'm going to want to go with that kind of build, and I can't use Novak in every lineup.
I mean, with so much uncertainty, this is not the worst week to like. You're going to get some guys who missed the cut. Yeah. If you can leverage that to get the guys who are going to play in the final pairing, basically, that's when it's worth it. So a Bud Cauley situation is kind of interesting.
Yeah. All right. Let's finish up with our win picks for this week. I don't remember who won the bobble hat last time because it was like 30 weeks ago. The last time we actually played, it was you. Okay. Do you want to pick? We have very different picks this week. So do you want to pick first and fourth or second and third?
Knowing I need to make up ground, I don't know if it matters a ton. So I will just I'll go first because I don't think it's going to matter. And I'll get Xander as a result.
Yeah. I would have been more likely to take Xander than Rahm.
Right.
But then I'll go with my 2 actual bets for this week, which are Neiman at 30 and JT at 40.
Okay.
And then you're going to go Rahm for your second one? Or no?
Yeah, okay. That was implied. I mean, I was considering Fleetwood.
Sure.
But if I can close some ground here, then I don't have to go as deep with my next winner, which I'll definitely get before the end of the season, which is kind of closer than it seems.
Don't say that. It's upsetting. Okay, so you have Jon Rahm at 12 and Xander Schauffele 22, whereas I have Justin Thomas 40 and Joaquin Neiman at 30 for our win picks for this week. Any final thoughts for you on the DFS side of things? We'll talk about betting again tomorrow, but any final DFS thoughts for you for this week?
You're going to be able to find some leverage depending on how you play things. I don't think, though, that this is a week where you go super balanced. I think you're leaving too much win equity, but that's just kind of how I see it. I think one of the studs is going to win as always, which happens a lot at majors, but especially I think this week at Oakmont.
And that stud is Joaquin Neiman. We'll be back again tomorrow to break down our thoughts on the full betting card for this week, including some non-outrights. FanDuel has some first round leader offers out there, so I'll throw out a first round leader. Why not? We'll talk about that. Covering the spread tomorrow on the Covering the Spread podcast, but also the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. Leave us a thumbs up if you're watching there. We appreciate those of you watching on YouTube as always, and make sure you're subscribed to the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page to get these shows every week. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work on the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. Brandon, people have questions for you. Where can they find you on social media?
I'm on X at Gdula13, GDULA13, and on Blue Sky at Gdula.
My reflex, because of listening to No Laying Up, is whenever someone's X, the Tron Carter, the Everything app, automatically tossed in there. Yeah. I am on X, the Everything app, and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Want to thank you all for tuning in for today. Back again tomorrow to break down our full betting card for the U.S. Open. We'll talk to you then. This has been The Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast.